Okay, Abusuya, NPP former criminal appointees. Abusuya, eja egu omuchemu. Attorney General, kwa akopie mu parliament na den na emana kwa akopie mu parliament. Abusuya, ena ya project ato ye screen no enchen de amamono. Attorney General to submit key legal reforms bills to Parliament, including the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, a new Yoko Act, a Legal Profession Bill, a Tribunal Bills, and amendment to court rules. Abusuya, intino, ohwe sa adie ya bills ya Attorney General kwa akopie mu Parliament abusuya enye bills ketwa. Inti oye NPP former appointee na onim se wawia oman ni sika anase waluti oman no state properties anase bibisa abusuya wa hwehwe bill we Attorney General kwa akopie mu court tribunals ya yeba be create special court na yede a prosecute NPP criminal appointees anase government appointees no omo abo oman ne kro no Yoko Act bi a omobesan so de aba bills bebre na Attorney General kwa akopie mu Parliament abusuya intino sa the likes of Ekufuado ne former appointees kro no a mobebo kenofori atade ono de so no isi ano odemu US abonten so bet omo Ghana hase no omo cases Ghana the likes of Gifty Owaremo Kwabena Edubuayemo chairman won to me mo cases wo court no abusuya bill we sa special court tribunal ya ba be create abusuya the tension be and as the panic be ato NPP parliamentary former parliamentary candidate and as NPP former appointees. Intino abusuya we any breaking news ya project the ato ye screen no enchen the amamno Attorney General so the same be oko grantee interview bi odin nsem bi ababetodwa mom yenko na yenkonkoti ensema Attorney General editodwa aha gossip politics TV so unsubscribe ya subscribe like na share ma afofron so ensa into me and can don't forget to click on the notification bell so na any update be ever dropping on onsa ebitumi akabi medamase
enormous pleasure since assuming office and for obvious reasons. My office is in charge of one of the flagship, promises of our government, which is the Operation Recover All Loot or Oral. And we hit the road running with that. And there has been enormous pressure because the expectations were high. Given the level of malfeasance or alleged malfeasance, let me put it that way, so that nobody says that I'm prejudging anybody. But given the level of malfeasance that was alleged, to have occurred in the previous regime for the 8 years, and which allegations were made very popular, through radio discussions, social media posts and so on. All Ghanaians, had eyes on the office as the place to execute, the task, of implementing the Operation Recover All Loot. And so the expectations are so high that sometimes you really wonder, whether people expect, for instance, that you put aside due process, right?
And just put people in prison.
Yeah, and just put people in prison. In fact, to be honest with you, if I had the power to just jump over the judiciary and not, have to prosecute anybody, not having to, have a third party neutral adjudicator look at the evidence that I gather, and then for me to just take people to Isawam, I think I would have done that so that I can relieve myself, of the pressures that I'm getting. But that is not how our constitution and laws, a mandate that the office of the Attorney General, works. And so it's been a bit difficult because I'm also not, apart from the press conferences to account to the people, right? I usually would not be reacting to social media posts, radio interviews and so on. So because of that, I think the field is left open for people to mislead the public about the work that I do, You know, so sometimes you hear radio discussions and people are like, oh, the oral is so slow, but now people should have been in jail. And you just wonder, you know, because if you have to, be meticulous in investigating, all right, you need, at least a minimum of 6 months to be able to investigate one, a case, all right. And I keep mentioning this, and it is not for nothing, because the Americans, you know, when they make an extradition request to my office and they bring me the documents, from reading the documents, I realize that they spend like 6 years following one, you know, a criminal syndicate. Okay, so for instance, if you take people like Abu Trika and all those who have been involved in the romance scam that has affected a number of American citizens, and the Americans want them extradited, they don't take less than 6 years, and sometimes they actually lure the criminals into doing the things that will make it possible for them to prove the crime. So they will allow you to come to America and exit America, have contact with the people that you are about to dupe, and so on and so forth. And then they have, you know, what do you call them? Undercover agents monitoring your movement, who you are contacting, who you are calling, and so on and so forth. All right. So they take time to meticulously investigate every offense. And that is the approach that my office is trying to use. But we know that we don't have 6 years, you know, to be able to do this. We have a mandate of 4 years. And in my case, you know, spending 4 years to investigate one crime doesn't make any sense, because I must account for the results within during the next electoral cycle. You know, so I have to work as fast as possible. And so far, without meaning to be boastful, no Attorney General in the history of our Fourth Republic has filed more cases involving public sector corruption than I have done, you know, so far.
How many total now? Well,
so in total we have done, I think, about 6 or 7 cases have been filed. You know, we have Kwabena Edubohi, we have Hanan. You know, that's the buffer stock. Yes, you know, this. We have SkyTrain. We have 2 or 3 national service, you know, cases and so on. So, and I'm going to be filing some, you know, at the beginning of this year, as I announced, you know, much earlier. So, definitely we are on course. All right. Of course, the speediness of the trial depends. Most of the time now, it will depend on the judiciary. All right. So, for instance, if I file the case, I have my evidence ready and so on. It will depend on the judiciary. So, if you have a situation where there are long adjournments being allowed by the judges, then the cases will drag on. But in most of the cases, the evidence that I have gathered is watertight. All right. I don't want to say a lot of things on radio, go into the specifics, you know, but I have, you know, I've done a meticulous job with my team, especially at EOCO and then National Intelligence Bureau, you know, to, make sure that we have very good dockets that are placed before the judges. And so, hopefully, this year will be different. Results will start pouring in, and I believe that Ghanaians will begin to realize that is, we've done a very good job.
What would be an acceptable outcome for oral? You've engaged the public largely on these issues, and like you said, you have seen the expectations that people have.
Right.
What would happen for people to have considered oral as successful, in your opinion?
Well, from everything that I have seen and I've heard and read about, people expect, first of all, that there's full accountability.
Okay.
And by full accountability, I mean that people are going to jail, and then I'm also recovering the loot that was, that was involved in any of the transactions, the subject matter of the prosecutions. So I think that is what they expect, full accountability. And I'm saying this because you remember at some point in time, I said to the Ghanaian public that I was very much open to striking deals, plea deals with those who are on the trial. And I was saying so against the background of the plea bargaining law, that, well, there is a law that says that, if you have committed a crime and you are undergoing trial and you want the charges dropped or you want to plead to a lesser offense, in exchange for your freedom, then you can apply to the court to do so, and you can also apply to the Attorney General, outside the court process, to be able to take advantage of the plea deal. So I was saying that, look, I'm open-minded. I don't want to shut my doors to the possibility of someone saying that, look, I know that I have committed this offense. I want to plead to a lesser offense, or I want to bring back what I've looted in exchange for walking free. And I got roasted on social media. I got roasted on mainstream media.
Very much so.
The Global Info Analytics did a survey of Ghanaians, and they said they were disappointed, because I was willing, to let the criminals go, without going to jail and so on and so forth. So I had to change my attitude to that.
Okay.
I mean, not that I'm being, I'm going with the crowd, but that was, an assessment of my position. And democracy is about, the people, right? It's a people-centered, governance regime. And so if the people, desire that something should happen, as a leader, if what they are asking me to do is bad, if it is evil, if it is against my conscience as a human being, I will not do it. All right, but objectively, what they wanted is full accountability, and that is not in any way contrary to the letter and spirit of the Constitution or the underlying moral basis of our laws. And so, for that reason, I thought that I should be more stringent. And so, those who came after that asking for plea deals, I basically directed them to the courts, and I said, look, you go and file a plea bargain with the court. If the court invites me for my opinion, I'll give that opinion. The court can then take a decision, and that decision will be a judicial decision and not my decision as Attorney General.
So, just for clarity, for those of us who do not have legal education, there are for some of the cases that you've taken interest in, there are huge sums of monies that are involved in these cases. And if plea bargain is out of the question, or at least we are now more stringent against that because that's what the people demand, would that mean that the Attorney General may not now focus necessarily on retrieval and rather putting people to prison, or then it becomes a balance of two? What exactly are we doing?
It will be a question of doing both.
Okay. And
doing both very diligently to achieve the best results.
Okay.
So yes, trying to as much as possible prove that people, get people convicted is one of them. Not at all costs.
Okay.
I'm putting before the courts, objective evidence of wrongdoing. All right. So I'm not going to, simply say, urge the court to imprison somebody when there's no evidence backing the allegation, of wrongdoing. So yes, I'm putting the evidence before the courts and urging the conviction, and at the same time, doing the asset tracing. So you will realize that in some of the cases that I have filed, I have always listed the assets that were acquired using the proceeds of crime, and in every case. Right, we've been able to trace, the acquisition of the houses, the acquisition of cars, the acquisition of property to the proceeds of crime, and those are very, straightforward ones. There are also cases where I have not been able to put a finger on the property, but there are certain properties that have been acquired, and the Constitution allows for public officers, and those who are public officers should listen to this carefully, that when you look at the Constitution of the Republic, on the chapter on the conduct of public officers, there is a presumption of unlawful acquisition of property when that property has been acquired during the tenure of the public officer, and the public officer cannot explain the sources of income or revenue that was used to be, to acquire the property. And so that is a constitutional provision that I'm trying to use, very effectively, especially with the help of the Auditor General. So now, in the last press conference that I did, I announced that, look, if you recklessly, or intentionally cause financial loss to the state through a transaction that you have authorized, all right, I will request that the Auditor General should disallow the expenditure. Okay, the Constitution in Article 187 is very, very clear that when an expenditure is unlawful, right, for instance, it violates the procurement laws, it violates the Public Financial Management Act of 2016, then the Auditor General has power to disallow the expenditure and surcharge that expenditure on the public officer. Now, when the surcharge has been served on you, right, within 14 days you are supposed to respond and show why the surcharge, the amount should not be disallowed and surcharged on you. When that is done, then I, as Attorney General, now I have the power to take legal action to recover that amount from you. So let's say you granted you authorized a contract under a procurement process, you granted a contract for $40 million, 40 million Ghana cedis, right? If we find that it was in disregard of the procurement laws, all right, and that some loss has been occasioned to the state, then we can ask that you refund the $40 million. Now, if the surcharge has been served on you and you cannot show cause, I can come after you for any property of yours that can be used to defray the $40,000 dollars. The 40 million Ghana cedis. So that is the approach that we are using.
Right. Yeah. The government accountability series, and I agree that it's a very good platform for the government to be able to account to the people about what they are doing.
Yes.
But then there are those who argue, particularly in your case, if you take the case of Edubuahia and his lawyers and the minority, who argue that you have turned that platform into public trials when the courts have not even decided on these cases here. How do you respond to these issues?
It is very interesting that they are making a case that that's a public trial. I don't try anybody in public, all right? And I believe that you've been watching things, news items on criminal prosecutions in areas, places like the United States of America. When the district attorney for the Southern District of New York, held a press conference on Donald Trump, okay, immediately before filing charges, she laid out in detail the charges that they have, that they have filed against, that they are about to file against Donald Trump. She laid out in detail some of the evidence, that they have gathered, the factual basis of the charges and so on. She did that, and then proceeded with the court action. Now, America is over 200 years a democracy. All right. No one has said that when the prosecuted in America are detailing their charges, right? They are trying somebody in public. It is about letting, you see, in the U.S., the title of every criminal case is The People versus Lexis, right? So the people are the ones who are more or less like the complainant. They are the ones who have been hurt. And the people versus Lexis is the one who has committed the offense. All right. So the people who are putting forward the charges must know. And I act on behalf of the people. And that is why in our case, every criminal case is titled The Republic versus Kwabena Edubuahia. The Republic versus Hanan. The Republic versus Gifty Owari, and so on and so forth. So the Republic, right, is the sovereign people of this country. All right. And what we do is basically to say that we, the people, must know exactly what we are filing against the person who has committed the offense. I don't see what is wrong with that. All right. And you see, they try to make it look like, oh, I am just talking, and that there is nothing to what I'm saying. So if there's nothing to what I'm saying, they should be the happiest people, in town, right? That I am just talking, I'm just blowing hot air. But they know especially their lawyers, they know that the way I lay out the evidence, all right, is very, strong, all right, and provable. So sometimes they get afraid that the people will get to know that, look, these people have actually committed the offenses that I am charging them with, and that is why they are not happy about it. Look, I told one NPP MP that they are just jealous of what I'm doing because it's a new approach to criminal prosecution. It's a new approach that I have brought to the Attorney General's department, and I told him, I said, I bet it, mark it down. Your next Attorney General will do a similar thing, because this is the way to go. I tell the people of this country what my investigations have revealed, and then I go to court and then go and file. Part of the reason why I don't file before addressing the edition is that normally or ethically, as lawyers, you don't comment on a pending trial, right? Because then it makes it look like you are trying to undermine the administration of justice or prejudice, the administration of justice or the outcome of the case. And so I do the press conference, all right? Then I proceed to file, all right? Prior to, filing, I tell the people what I have found by way of investigation, and then I go and file. I see nothing wrong with that. It is done in the U.S., as I've said. It is done in the United Kingdom. It's done in Australia. Elsewhere in the world.
So global standard practice.
Yes, and you see, what they don't understand is that they can talk on social media. All right, sometimes I roam on the streets, and I meet people, Ghanaians, and then they walk up to me and say, Attorney General, thank you for the wonderful work that you are doing. All right. What the NPP would have loved would have been for me to go to court, go and file, then they will get their journalists to do selective reporting. All right. And even try to undermine your case by saying things that you have not done, you have not said in court. But the way I lay it out, everybody knows. So now every Ghanaian knows that Kwabena Edubonhi took money from a public account, put it into a company account, and the company belonged to himself and his wife, and then he spent it in ways that were not, for the public good. And I have said, for instance, in March 2020, he put 16 million Ghana cedis in fixed deposit accounts with his bank in his own name. That is not public expenditure. All right, and it takes diligent investigation to be able to, find out that this is what has happened. All right, I read through the financial statements, and I find out. So, this is how you spend the money.
Okay, abusia we ne ensema ekoso ewo political highway ne so Attorney General ne bill or de kwa akopie mu ewo parliament no ene project e de to ye screen no enchen e de mama no unsubscribe ya subscribe like na share ma afofron so ensa into me enka bia ha Gossip Politics TV. So and don't forget to click on the notification bell so any updates be dropping on so once able to me aka menamase.